I left my roommate out in the cold. Hi, I'm Rachel and welcome to Snacks and Scandals, where snacks meet Reddit story scandals. Today's episode theme has to do with annoying roommates and our snack pairing to go along with roommates, because typically if you do have roommates, you're trying to save some money. And a very common food of people who like to save money can be ramen noodles. And I have here an old El Paso flavor and a Totino's ramen noodles flavor. So before we dive in, we're gonna pour in some hot water, let these start getting softened up, and then we'll get into our first story. I left my roommate out in the cold. I've lived with a friend for 7 years now, and he's a nice enough guy, but over the years, he has gotten more and more lazy. We have a dishwasher, but he'll leave his used dishes out for days. He never cleans. He has long hair that he leaves in the shower drain and expects me to do the laundry. You can imagine I'm getting pretty fed up with this behavior, and I've asked him to at least clean up after himself, but he always forgets after a few days. Lately, he started forgetting his keys too and calls me if I'm out, so I'll have to come back home to let him in. Of all the things he does, this is the most annoying because I have to drop what I'm doing just to go help him. Well, after the third time, I had had enough, and I told him, if you forget your keys again, I won't come home. If you want to hide an extra key in the shed for when you forget your keys, you'll have to pay for it yourself. He said he would. He makes more money than me. But lo and behold, he never did. The next time he forgot his keys was a cold and rainy day, and I told him again that I was done dropping everything for him, but I'd come home once I was done with my shopping. Just to be extra petty, I went into a few extra stores and really took my time deciding on what to buy. When I got home, he was sitting in the shed, mostly dry but very cold. He never bought an extra key, but he never forgot his own after that. That's a pretty good way to teach somebody not to forget their keys. I would personally have more of a problem with cleaning up after him, because cleaning, who likes to clean? There's probably some people, but I digress. Cleaning sucks, and I would be more irritated by the cleanliness factor. So let's read some comments. No problem with that. You can't be expected to take care of other people all the time. Another commenter writes, you do understand that he's doing all this on purpose, right? He figured out if he just keeps forgetting, you will end up doing it and he doesn't have to. Time to move out or look for a new roommate. And the OP responded to this. Thing is, I don't do it. I leave it until he does it himself. I'm just tired of looking at it. Wow. I mean, I guess, yeah, if you're fed up enough, you would rather live in some filth than pick up after a grown adult. Early onset dementia? Not likely, but throw it out at him, and every time he pulls this bullcrap, start insisting that he see a neurologist for an evaluation. Really lean into questioning his competency. You don't have a roommate, but a child, a dirty, grubby teenager. Yeah. This roommate does sound more like a child. One commenter writes, so you have a roommate that expects you to clean his laundry, clean up after his bathing, clean his dishes, and come running at the drop of a hat? If this is real, you are in a common law marriage and your roommate has made a chump out of you. Kick them out or move out, but as long as you stay, this will not change. That was a pretty funny comment. Honestly, I'm shocked you even went home the first time. If my roommate forgot their keys, unless I'm really close by, they get a reply saying, I'll be home around X. I'll call you when I am 5 minutes away. And they can find something else to do until then. Yeah, that's how you teach somebody how to treat you. Don't enable him in any way anymore. Put his dirty dishes on his bed, pile his dirty clothes on his floor, in his doorway. You are not his keeper. Yeah, people are like, why are you picking up after him? Why are you doing laundry? But per him, he says he just lets it sit there. I don't know. And let's read one more comment. When I had a roommate that didn't clean up after themselves, I would put everything I picked up on their bed. This would be hair from the drain, dirty socks, and their unwashed dishes, Dirty dishes staining on their new expensive bed sheets fixed that problem. Ooh, yeah, the hair. Because this guy does have long hair and he leaves it in the drain, so maybe putting it on his bed will help him clean up after himself when he's done showering. So let's check on our noodles, see how done they are. I think we have a little ways to go. Okay, I think our noodles are softened up. Let's give them a try. We'll start with the pizza first. It's got a good flavor. The noodles taste very plain, but the broth is pretty flavorful. Does it taste like pizza? I'll let you know at the end. And now for our second story. I got my dirty roommate fired. I, 30-year-old female from country A, and a few years ago, I was hired by a company in country B. I had to move to country B for a few months in order to be trained for the job, and then I could go back home to keep working remotely. I was hired more or less at the same time as a few other people from my country. As a result, the company had to find a suitable accommodation to put us in for several weeks, and so hotels were not an option. They found apartments for rent and put 2 employees from country A in each apartment. I was the last employee from country A to be hired, and as a result, I was accommodated in the only apartment that still had a free spot, with a roommate from my country who we will call Jeff, a 32-year-old male. Cue to my first day in country B. I was picked up at the train station after a long plane ride, and Jeff and others were kind enough to come and get me to walk me to the apartment building we were all sharing. During the walk, Jeff kept telling me how long he had spent cleaning the apartment to make it ready for me, and I was thankful. However, when we got to the apartment, it was nasty, full of dirt and what I would want to assume were Jeff's beard hairs scattered around the place. The toilet was disgusting. The kitchen was sticky up to the ceiling, so I spent my first few days cleaning everything behind Jeff's back so as not to offend him. Some people's standards of cleanliness are different, so I thought nothing of it. Weeks passed and Jeff never cleaned again. He was incredibly messy, never cleaned after himself, walked in dirty mud boots all around the house, never did a single dish, never washed his bed sheets, barely showered, often forgot to flush the toilet after using it, never opened a single window to air out the house, etc. I was absolutely disgusted and anxious the entire time I lived there, and I cleaned the house like a sick person each day to keep it livable for me. On our last night before returning to our home country, I packed my suitcase, washed all towels, linens, clothes, floors, surfaces, appliances, everything. Jeff chose to get pissed drunk instead and not pack his suitcase or clean his room because he said it would take him 10 minutes the next morning. The next morning, I got a knock on the door at approximately 9 a.m. It was our boss coming to pick up Jeff because his flight was early in the morning. He was going to a different part of our country. Jeff was asleep in his dirty room and I had to wake him up. He panicked, threw a few things in his suitcase, and ran for the door. Before he left, I asked if he intended to clean his bedroom as he promised, and he begged me to do it because I'm a better cleaner, and he was in too much of a rush. I called him a pig and he left. Cue my revenge. I had spent several weeks cleaning after him, not complaining to not come across as annoying, and just putting my head down and cleaning to make the house livable for me. I was so done and did not want to pick up any more hair or dirt coming from this man's body. So I called our boss. I explained the situation. The company had told us to leave the apartment spotless, otherwise they wouldn't get their deposits back. My boss came to the house to check Jeff's room and was appalled at what he saw. He profusely apologized to me, went to the supermarket, and bought new cleaning supplies. Even brought a Hoover from his own house. He spent the next few hours scrubbing the room on his hands and knees. He threw out the clothes and personal items Jeff had forgotten. And best of all, a few weeks after seeing Jeff's performance was completely subpar, he fired Jeff. If he hadn't been such a terrible human, he might have helped him get a better job, but he chose to fire him instead. Long story short, Jeff ruined his own chances at a very good job, and I was thanked over and over again for putting up with the situation so gracefully. I also got a raise shortly thereafter. So long story short, don't be a pig. It can have bigger consequences than expected. I totally agree. And unfortunately, this roommate didn't want to rock the boat or is just not capable of confrontation. And so instead ended up cleaning after this adult slob man-child. So let's read some comments. I call it karma. Everyone has their own idea of cleanliness, but the fact that he doesn't mind leaving bits of his body hair all over the place and repeatedly forgetting to flush the toilet tells me everything I need to know about his hygiene. And in the end, taking you for granted as if he was still doing you a favor by letting you clean tells me that he has had a mother who never taught him anything about cleanliness and respect for others people's spaces. Right. This guy clearly has no respect for anyone. You didn't get Jeff fired, Jeff got Jeff fired. Jeff's new home behind a dumpster should meet his standards of hygiene. Yeah, no kidding. I love the boss who gets on their hands and knees to clean up after an employee, leading by example. Yeah, and the OP responded to that and said, best boss I ever had. The guy was an absolute legend. Somebody responded that they don't think it was petty revenge in the least. I think you're a saint for having put up with this and not complaining for so long, especially having to live with a man that you don't know. It might be enough to put you off of all men in the future. Ha ha, I hope it doesn't. I'm a guy, and even I'm appalled when someone has clutter or can't be bothered to just wash up after themselves. You have way more grace and patience than I do. I would have been constantly fighting with him. And let's read one final comment. While I enjoyed your story, I have to disagree with your conclusion. You didn't get Jeff fired, Jeff got Jeff fired. People who are bad in one aspect of life are also bad at many others. Jeff is just the latest example. Could that be true? Somebody who's bad in one aspect is bad in many others? Maybe. I don't know. If you have experience with those kind of people, let us know. And let's try our old El Paso ramen noodles. Okay, our noodles in this one plumped up a lot more. They obviously had more time, but let's give it a bite. Does it taste like old El Paso? There is some spice in there. The broth, I'm going to taste the broth. The broth is really quite good. The noodles aren't picking up much of the flavor of the broth. And to pair with our ramen noodles, I found this drink at Walmart. It's a made in America, naturally occurring minerals and electrolytes. Spring water. So let's give it a try. Okay. I was expecting some carbonation, but there is none. It's interesting. Why do they put it in a can? It literally just tastes like water. I mean, I get that it's naturally occurring water, but being in a can, I would have expected carbonation. Very moist. And now for our final story. Roommate stole my washcloths, so I decided to let her steal one more. My freshman year, I had the most inconsiderate roommate who'd stay up all night talking loudly, eat my food, etc. Oddly, my washcloths that I used to wash my face would go missing. Like, I think I lost 3 or 4 throughout the semester. I thought someone was taking them, but I had no idea where to. Well, the end of the semester, we were cleaning out the bathroom cabinets to move out, and what did I find shoved in the far back corners of the cabinets? My washcloths, which were covered in orange foundation. Clearly evidence from my one rude roommate because she wore so much foundation every single day. I was super annoyed because I had to keep buying more washcloths to replace the one she stole. Well, I decided to use one of my other washcloths to clean the disgusting bathtub with it. I'm talking ring of shampoo, dirt, hair everywhere, etc. I was planning to just throw it away afterwards, but I decided to hang it up and let it dry. In the same place I would hang my washcloths for my face. The next day, the washcloth I had used for the bathtub was covered in orange foundation. The look on her face when I told her, ... no regrets. So was that good revenge or what? Let's read some comments. Did you just use my butt cloth? That could have been a good response to it. I hope you acted extra innocently, that you were just trying to save a few bucks and clean it because you kept losing all your towels for some reason. Really dig under the skin, or in this case, dig under the foundation. That's pretty clever. Some people are pretty clever. The best part is telling her. It doesn't even count if you don't tell the person what you did, because they would never feel the disgust and shame. Yeah, you have to have that satisfaction. You've got to tell them. You should have dipped it in the toilet before hanging up. Now that might be crossing the line a little bit. Even if I was to play a prank on somebody, I don't think I could go that far. I had a jackass roommate years ago that made my life hell. Right before I moved out, I used his toothbrush to clean his dog's teeth. No regrets. Now that, not so bad. Not as bad as the toilet. And our final comment, I had this roommate who just finished coming back from a workout and thought it would be funny to rub his hands across his sweaty balls, then rub his hand across my face. I was infuriated. I tried to fight him, but dude was way stronger than me and we ended up on the floor in a stalemate. I went into the shower to wash and saw his bottle of shampoo. Opened that MFer up and filled it partially with urine and left it there. I eventually told him when the bottle was finished. I don't know. Is that pretty, having a sweaty ball hand swiped across your face and washing your hair with urine? Are those pretty even? Probably so. I think that was a fair trade. So I'd love to hear from you what you thought of these petty revenge roommate stories. Do you have any of your own roommate stories that you can share? Comment below. And as for our ramen noodles, our old El Paso and Totinos, I'm going to give each of them one more bite to see if the noodles are any more flavorful now that they've been sitting here for a while. Oh yeah. You can taste the pizza a lot more. It's soaked more into the noodles. Old El Paso, the noodles didn't soak up much more flavor. And there's a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of spice. I would have expected a little bit more. Why am I still eating it? I don't know. Haven't had lunch, but what do I rate these? I rate the Totinos a 6. And I would rate the Old El Paso, because the noodles didn't really pick up much more flavor, I would give this a 4. And these were about $1.40 each, so a good money-saving lunch. Would I buy these again? Maybe if I was in a rush or I was going on a camping trip, this would be a perfect meal for that. So let me know if you've tried these 2 ramen noodles, and if so, did you like them? And I want to thank you so much for watching today's episode. I hope you'll join me for the next one.